Dad, this is my boyfriend, Thomas. The words spilled from my lips like a deluge. My heart raced to the point where it practically burst out of my chest. I did it. I finally did it. As I met my father's gaze, however, I saw something else. His jaw dropped, and his lip curled into a tight frown. Thomas's hand stayed on mine, holding it tightly. I needed all the help I could get. Dad? Did you hear me? I heard you all right, he grumbled. His gaze turned to Thomas, and he glared with a tight stare. So that's why when you told me you were bringing someone, you never specified what kind of someone it might be. I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't know how to say it. Believe me, you said everything. I'm not surprised you're one of those people. I stood there, mildly surprised at the animosity dripping from his lips. What do you mean? You're gay, he said. I didn't know I raised you to be like that. Dad, it's not like I can help it, I sputtered. I've never had a girlfriend. Yes, but I never raised you that way, and you decide to bring it here, ruining our holiday season. I'm not ruining anything, I replied. In fact, I'm surprised you never picked up on this sooner. My father's anger spat palpable on his face. Whatever. Dad, please, I want to talk. We're done talking, Adrian. You bring this to my house and ruin the holidays. I should have known better. You wanted to spring your girlfriend on me? I snapped. My father's girlfriend, Gianna, sat there not saying a word. And yet I'm the problem? You're not normal like she is. Normal? Dad, I thought you would understand and maybe accept it better. He stood up, rubbing his temples. I didn't raise you into your adult years just for you to not give me a grandchild. So that's all he cared about. The progeny and bringing new life into this world. Jeez, Dad, I thought you would understand it. Mr. Reeves, I can assure you that Thomas tried to say before my dad's sharp voice cut him in the middle. No, I'm done. I'm not interested in working this out right now. I need some space. Dad stormed out of the room to the patio and slammed the door. I looked at Gianna, who shook her head. I'm sorry, Adrian. I know where your dad's coming from, but so it's okay for him to treat his son like trash because he's gay, then? Gianna sat there, slightly taken aback. Adrian, that's not the case. It sure is! Wow. I come in a few days early, and this is how I'm treated. I guess go talk to Dad and see if you can reason with him. Gianna smiled. I will. Don't worry, Adrian. He'll come around. As Gianna walked away, silence filled the room. I looked at my boyfriend, who kept a straight face. Do you want to go upstairs? I nodded. Please. I can't bear to be around him any longer. We headed upstairs to my room, and as I closed the door, the pangs of regret filled me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I finally came to terms with my sexuality, and now I somehow felt worse than before. The day before. I want you to come with me to my dad's for the holidays. The words made me flush as I looked at my boyfriend of 6 months. Thomas smiled. I would love that. Mom and Dad are off vacationing for the holidays. They offered to take me, but I didn't want to be a third wheel. I don't blame you for that, I said. Dad has a girlfriend, and I don't think I could stomach being around that. Thomas chuckled. His arms wrapped around my back as he pulled me to his muscular chest. I know, Adrian. Plus, it means I get to spend more time with you. Always a treat, isn't it? He turned and gave me a soft kiss on the lips. We spent a few minutes just kissing and enjoying each other. Thomas was the perfect guy. He brought light to my life, and these past 6 months have been magical. Which is why I hoped that this meeting with my dad would go well. As Thomas pulled away, he caressed my cheek, his rough hand grazing against my subtle stubble. Are you sure things will be fine? I mean, this is a big step for you, isn't it? I shrugged. If my dad didn't know already, I'd be damn surprised. I never had a girlfriend. Maybe he thinks you just strike out with women too much. Never, I scoffed. I've had plenty of gals come on to me. One of them I took to homecoming, but it was when I kissed her that I realized I didn't like girls. Makes sense. Similar to my story. Yeah. So while it might surprise my dad, he should know by now that I've never had a girlfriend, so to not be that surprised. Thomas laughed, his low, husky voice part of the reason I fell for him. And, well, the closeness of our bodies. That's true. I'll come with you then, and I promise everything will be okay. Thomas hugged me again, and as I tightened my embrace, I sighed. I hoped everything would be okay. All I wanted was to come out to my dad and have a supportive experience. Little did I know that I would be presented with life's challenges. The next evening, I sat on the bed with my head in my hands. Thomas gently stroked my back, providing a little bit of comfort. It did little to stop the racing thoughts, but I appreciated our closeness. Exhaling, I looked up. I can't believe he acted like that. I expected him to be shocked, but agreed. You told me your dad might be a little surprised, but I didn't expect him to explode like that. You and me both, which is why I don't know what to do. I thought coming out to my dad would be easy, maybe a little awkward, but it'd blow over by the end of the night. I didn't think this outburst would be possible. Thomas nodded. I get it. This is a little awkward for all of us. Did you tell him I was coming? Well, not that you were my boyfriend, but that I was bringing someone. So he probably thought I was your girlfriend or something. Maybe. I'm not like my dad's mind reader or anything. Never said you were, Thomas chuckled dryly. But really, I understand. It's not easy to come out to someone. My parents were a little surprised and disappointed because they were expecting 20 grandbabies like my aunt's family. But I just said they needed to deal with it. Yeah, but it's just... I feel hurt, I said, my voice low. No, I understand. He was rude as hell towards you. Which is what I don't get. We used to be so close, then we grew apart. I thought my being happy might bring us together. I support him dating after my mom's death, so why doesn't he give me the same respect? I wish I knew. Let's just give him a day to calm down, and then you can talk things out, he said, trying to comfort me. Okay, I do want to stay, I just don't want him to be rude or hateful towards you. I don't want that either. We spent the rest of the night cuddling. My mind raced, but Thomas's comforting body provided solace. Tomorrow was a new day, and I'd talk to Dad again. Hopefully, we can agree on something. The next day. I woke up the next morning and made coffee for the family. Dad came down, but he barely acknowledged my efforts. I made coffee? Yeah, I see that. Thanks, but you didn't have to do that, he muttered. I wanted to, I gently replied. Figured I'd do something nice. Right, just like how you sprung on Gianna and me without telling us that you were bringing some guy over. Seriously? You wanted to start this sort of thing early in the morning? Dad, I wasn't trying to steal your fire. I was excited to introduce her to the family, to spend Christmas together as a family, but you just had to bring him. My father was still as hateful as before. The anger seemed to not dissipate, even with time. No, Dad, you've got it all wrong. Gianna's saying we should learn to accept each other. Right now, I don't know if I can do that. My whole world came crashing down. I thought my father had more love in his heart, or at least tried to care. Mom wouldn't appreciate you acting like this. She's probably looking down from the world beyond with disappointment in her eyes. That did it. It was a low blow to use, Mom. I knew this, but I wasn't going to let him have the upper hand. Dad didn't say anything. Instead, he stared, but his look spoke volumes about how he felt about my words. Sighing, I shook my head. Listen, I'm going to stay. I tried to say before he cut me off. Fine, whatever. You and your friend can stay. It bothered me he referred to Thomas as just a friend. Not some guy that I confessed to on our third date who showed me what love was. There was no sense in trying to argue with him, especially when my father was so damn set in those ways. I grabbed the coffee and brought it upstairs. Dad looked at me as I walked each rung, the words on the tip of his tongue. He'd come around. I was sure of it. However, I wasn't sure if I was just saying that for some peace of mind or because, deep down, I believed it. Later that night. Thomas and I went out to see a movie together. Being in the house, especially after what Dad said, was discomforting, to say the least. It wasn't like I had many options, though. I didn't have the funds to get a hotel until it was time to go back to campus. I relied on staying here. Thomas and I tried to make the most of it. When we got back, Dad and Gianna were on the couch watching a movie. I smiled as I looked at the screen. Oh, the Santa Claus! I love this one! Gianna looked over and smiled. Yeah, it's a good one. Your dad wanted to... We were planning on watching a movie alone, he corrected. Gianna looked at both of us. Yes, we were watching it, but if you wanted to join us, I'm sure we can make some room. Dad's gaze said everything. He didn't want to be around us. I shook my head and forced a smile. It's alright. We're both tired after the long day, so we're going to head upstairs. Oh, too good to spend time with Gianna then, he said. That is not what is going on here, Dad. We just wanted to give you some space, I calmly explained. Dad scoffed. Maybe you should have thought of that before you brought Thomas. I bit my tongue. Thomas, touching my hand, goaded me to get out of there. Trudging upstairs, I flopped on the bed, feeling all the happiness I experienced today disappear. Why? Why is he acting like this? I just want to have a normal Christmas. The tears threatened to spill. It wasn't out of sadness, but frustration with how Dad acted. Thomas sat down next to me, and he put his arm around me. I know that you're worried, but you've got to talk to him. What should I say? He's being dramatic because I brought home my boyfriend, but also because it can't be the Gianna and Dad show. I know, but he's got to open his heart. It's Christmas, and he doesn't get to see you. If he wanted to make things right, he would try to work things out. I sighed. Maybe. I'm just worried that when I do bring it up, he won't see eye to eye. Moping isn't going to fix this, babe, Thomas said. Your best bet is to sit down, get to the bottom of why he's acting like this, and then try to work things out. I suppose. I'm too tired to worry about this right now. Then don't. Let's just relax for the night. Tomorrow is a new day, and you two can try again. We spent the night together watching our own Christmas movie. I still had 3 more days until Christmas Eve. We only planned to be here until the 26th, but could I last that long? Or were Dad's actions going to make things worse? The next day. Things didn't get better. Dad and I avoided each other. Every time Thomas and I tried to talk to Gianna, Dad would be right there with some quip. Gianna opened up to the idea of Thomas after a bit. She liked him. And even though she was upset, I didn't tell Dad. We put our feelings to the side. I warmed up to her, even though it bothered me that Dad didn't tell me about her until the last minute. After Dad's third rude comment, he walked off and Gianna sighed. I don't know why he's so upset. I don't know either. I talked, and it isn't because you're gay, it's something else. It put me off a little bit that Dad talked to Gianna about why he felt this way, but it did give me peace of mind knowing that he wasn't mad about that. I see. She smiled. Don't worry, I'll try to talk to him. Gianna, it isn't your job to do this, I said calmly. You're nice, and I did have you all wrong, but I also don't want you to fix these battles. When are you going to do something about this, then? Her words, while sweet and innocent, cut through me like a knife. I don't know. You should do it soon. Something's going to break eventually, whether it be your relationship with Kevin or with him. She gestured to Thomas, who was on his phone. I nodded. He didn't deserve to be thrown into the middle of our mess. It was up to me to fix this, but did I have the courage to stand up to my father, a man whose resentment slowly drove me over the edge? Later that night. In addition to Dad avoiding me, Thomas did too. I hated it. I felt ostracized by everyone. I went up to the balcony where Thomas was reading something. Closing the door, I looked at him. Thomas, there you are. Oh yeah, I wanted to give you some space, he said softly. Why? I didn't need it. It's fine. We sat down together on the 2 chairs next to one another. The night was cool but not too crisp, and this time of year was warmer than in the past. Neither of us said anything for a bit until Thomas took a deep breath. I'm tired of all the fighting. I turned to face him. What do you mean? You and your dad. Every time I'm around you two, I feel as if I've been pulled into an argument that doesn't involve me. I want to have a good holiday, and right now, that's not happening. Thomas, I'm trying my best. You are? Then how come you let your dad walk all over you and say all those terrible things about me? He said, his tone still soft but with a little edge. I know, I need to sit down and talk to him. Okay, but when? He asked pointedly. Because I've been waiting for you to right this situation for a while now. It'll be soon. No, Adrian, I don't want it to be soon or some vague-ass time period. So what should I do then? I asked, feeling the frustration bubbling up. Well, what means more to you? Keeping this sorry excuse for peace? Or taking responsibility to rectify this? I didn't have answers. I hated fighting with my dad. It made me worry about drifting further away. I just don't want to lose him. He was the only person I had after Mom passed away. I know, Adrian, but you need to think about it. If your dad really loved you, he'd accept you for who you are and your feelings. Getting to the root of the problem and fixing it as best as you can means something. If you don't, it might be best if we go our separate ways then. Are you saying we break up? I asked, my voice low, my tears threatening to spill all over again. Well, would you really want to be with someone your father hates? No. Thomas touched my shoulder and looked me in the eyes. Talk to your dad alone. Do the right thing. You owe it to yourself. I nodded. I will. I'm just nervous. What if it makes things worse? Following your heart and doing what's right will always feel better in the long run, even if it's painful now. I'll be there for you, no matter what, okay? Tears prickled my eyes. Thomas was so sweet, but also knew how to give me a kick in the pants when I needed it. Thank you. You're welcome. I love you, Adrian. You deserve happiness, so stop devoiding yourself of it. I will. Thomas held me in a tight embrace, and I basked in our closeness. It felt right, so very real. We talked, shared kisses, and then had a little bit of fun. By the end of the night, I realized what I needed to do. I had to talk to my dad alone and clear the air. The next day. The plan was for Thomas and Gianna to stay away, giving us an hour to iron things out. Thomas thought it was a good idea, and Gianna spoke with Dad. Even though I disliked that she was intruding into our lives like this, I appreciated her doing something to support us. Gianna and Thomas both made excuses to leave the house. Now it was just up to my dad and me. I crept down and saw Dad sitting in front of the TV, watching some sports. I sat down next to him, and immediately he turned off the TV. Adrian? Dad, I want to talk to you, I began, recalling what Thomas and I had discussed last night. About what? About our relationship. Dad's face remained neutral. I took a deep breath, feeling the anxiety course through my body. No, don't worry about the fallout. Focus on the here and now. What do you mean? Dad, you've been nothing but hateful towards me ever since Thomas came over. I have my reasons. You didn't tell me you were bringing home a guy. You never told me you were gay, he snapped. I didn't because I struggled with my sexuality for years, I explained calmly. Thomas encouraged me to explain what I learned about my sexuality. It happened when I was in high school, but back then, you were worried about Mom and her time in the hospital. I didn't want to burden you. I see. I know it's not conventional, Dad, but Thomas makes me happy. Mom made us promise to find happiness on her deathbed 5 years ago. It was Dad's turn for his facade to break. She did. I'm sorry for not saying something sooner. I was a little nervous and scared about how you responded. When you got mad at me, I felt like I lost someone important, a parent who I loved. You didn't, Adrian. I was just caught off guard. I'm sorry for everything I said, he uttered glumly. Why did you do it, Dad? Why did you lash out? Because this is the first time I've been happy since losing your mother. When I found out you brought someone over, I got upset because I hoped that you would like Gianna. I do, Dad, I replied. She's a wonderful woman. I'm not taking away your fire or discounting your relationship. I found my own happiness, and so have you. He sat in silence as he processed the words. Yeah, we did. Exactly. And I was a bit upset when I found out you were bringing someone else to Christmas. Felt like you were discounting our relationship. Not at all, he admitted. I was just excited for you to meet Gianna, and it worried me you'd brush it off. I was worried about you accepting Thomas that I brushed off telling you. He sighed, half smiling. Look at us. I raised you after Lydia's death, and we still can't talk about the most basic of things. Maybe, but there's time to work on that, right? I asked, hopeful. True, he said with a dry chuckle. I'm sorry, Adrian, I am. I never met anyone who was gay until you dropped that bomb on me. In the past, I only heard negative things about it. I get it. I'm sorry you can't have grandkids, but... Oh, please, I was caught up in the moment, he retorted. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to get to know him and make the most of the few days you're here. And I'll talk to Gianna as well. I'm not comfortable with calling her mom, but if you're happy, I'm happy. Thank you. Same to you. Dad and I shook hands, and he pulled me into a hug. I hugged him back, smiling. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. I'm glad you found love. I'm glad you found love too. We stayed like this for a bit, and then Dad pulled away. We watched the game, talking about this and that, until Gianna and Thomas came home. Instead of my dad being resentful and mean, he seemed happier, encouraging Thomas to sit with the rest of us. I did the same with Gianna. It was a start. While not perfect, I was glad Dad had the heart to listen. That and a little bit of Christmas magic might save this disaster of a Christmas break. The next day. Christmas. Gianna woke us up Christmas morning. We opened presents, and I finally got to give Thomas the hat I bought him for Christmas. His eyes lit up, and he gave me a tight hug. I kissed him, and he did the same. Looking over, I expected to see disdain. Instead, I saw happiness. Gianna got Thomas and me some presents too, and I was able to give Dad the fountain pen he wanted. Thomas and I also got some perfume for Gianna since Dad recommended we get her that. I sent Thomas out on that mission while I helped Dad and Gianna with the cooking. Then came dinner. It was surprisingly nice. Thomas was talking, and Dad seemed genuinely interested. Wow, Thomas, that's impressive. So you're going into finance then? Correct. Plan to take over my family's bank. Whoa, Mr. Responsibility over here, my dad joked. We all shared a laugh around the table, the barriers coming down. Yeah, Thomas has been great. He's helped me stay on the right path with my own academics, I pitched in. That's good. It's what you need, Adrian. Someone to keep you on track when I'm not around. Please, you don't have to have Thomas to get that done, I retorted. The rest of the dinner was filled with laughter and revelry. It was all smiles, and Dad was too. At the end of the night, we watched another Christmas movie together. When it was time to go to bed, I hugged Dad. However, he looked past me at Thomas. Come here. Thomas walked over, uneasiness pressed across his face as he asked, Something wrong, Mr. Reeves? It's Kevin, and no, I just wanted to say, welcome to the family. He shook Thomas's hand and I smiled. See, everything worked out. And Gianna? I looked at her, nodding. Welcome to the family as well. It was a Christmas filled with love and happiness, melting the hate in hearts. I felt confident and happier, the excitement of knowing this was only the beginning. Dad's acceptance meant the world to me, solidifying our relationship and strengthening our bond. Thomas and I got married 3 years later after we finished our schooling. He got a job at the bank, and I got a nice job as a software engineer. Every year we went to my dad's place for Christmas. Thomas's parents accepted me as well, and our relationship brought the families together. Gianna eventually married my dad, and I was his best man. I was happy about this because it finally meant Dad could move on. Both of us found happiness in other people, a happiness that would stay with us for the rest of our lives. The end. Have you ever had issues bringing over a new partner for Christmas? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay whole.